Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Welcome back to Sacked in the Morning. I'm your host Caleb, and today we're talking about Newcastle United. So, the transfer window just opened. Technically, there was a pre-transfer window, it's sort of a made-up one for the Club World Cup. The real one opened on June the 16th. Obviously, once the PSR cycle does end, the latest one being on June the 30th, technically Newcastle United will have more leeway to spend. Because the summer where they bought the likes of Isak, the likes of Botman, the likes of Nick Pope, etc., that summer's gone. So, from that perspective, maybe Newcastle United are waiting out. But the reality is, the sort of top transfer targets Newcastle United have been targeting, and Mbeumo, he looks set to be going to Manchester United, maybe Tottenham Hotspur. I know Cunha was linked, he's already signed for Manchester United. Newcastle United's top goalkeeping target, James Trafford, looks like they've been priced out of it. 40 million Burnley are demanding. Their main centre-back target, Mark Gahey, it looks like Liverpool are set to put in a substantial bid in for him. And in terms of other wingers, it looks like they're priced out of Alanga. The main sort of forward target is João Pedro. It looks like he might be going to Chelsea. So Newcastle United seems to be missing out on a lot of transfer targets. And it is really interesting because now that they're sort of mixing with the big boys in terms of the fact that they've won their first competition, they've now qualified for Champions League 2 times in 3 seasons. Now they're trying to get these sort of top targets. It's like they're getting rejected left, right, and centre. And I mean, they're not acting like a big club. They're sort of just like. I understand that there is a deadline and they have to wait for June the 30th. I don't know if Newcastle United are going to try and exploit Aston Villa's PSR situation. I think Eddie has been very vocal on that. They're looking to take advantage of clubs with PSR issues. But, I mean, it's almost like Newcastle United have a very small pool of players that they're trying to buy from. And it's almost like, well, he's gone there, he's going there, he's going there. And they're going to Premier League rivals as well. So Newcastle United aren't getting their main rivals, main sort of targets. They're going to rival clubs. João Pedro could be going to Chelsea, for example. And Mbeumo going to Manchester United, for example. Trafford, apparently Trafford, I mean, he could potentially be going to Chelsea as well. So Gahey going to Liverpool. So it's almost like, well, one thing Newcastle United have done in the windows since they've been taken over is they've been very quick. They bought players out of nothing. Sandro Tonali, it was a signing which came out of nothing. Alexander Isak, something that came out of nothing. Like, very rarely a sort of drug saga has dragged on with Newcastle. The only exception was sort of the Mark Gahey, and that didn't go over the line. But it's almost like Eddie Howe has these sort of players that he wants, but it's almost like he can't move on from them, and it's almost like he's messing around with the valuations with these sort of players. The likes of we saw last time with Gahey, João Pedro, etc. And it's almost like, well, is there a reason to panic for Newcastle United fans? Obviously, I think that Newcastle United will become active after June the 30th. As soon as it hits July the 1st, I do expect Newcastle United to sort of go out and go bang, start spending the Champions League money. Start spending the Champions League money, start trying to build up for the sort of European competition they're going to be playing in next season. Obviously, one way to do that would be to sell Alexander Isak and then just go absolutely wild. I think if they sell Isak, if they would sell him for 150 million, that's 90 million profit, I believe. That basically means Newcastle United can spend about, I don't really understand it. From what I've heard, apparently Newcastle could then spend 400 million or something like that once this PSR cycle ends, something crazy like that. But it's almost like they're missing out on their main targets. They're going to sell their best striker. When he doesn't play, Newcastle United drop off. So there's still plenty of excitement. I saw today Newcastle United were linked with Xavi Simons. I think that'd be a great signing. I think that Leipzig, I saw £67 million, but they could potentially be interested in negotiating lower. Obviously, they missed out on Champions League. I think that'd be a great signing for Newcastle. It gives them depth across the front three in the attacking midfield area. They don't really have a creative midfielder, and he can play off the right. If they're able to go and get Xavi Simons, they're able to go and get someone of his quality. There's going to be a lot of competition around Europe. We saw what he did against England, for example, in the Euro semi-final. I think it's very, very... I think there's no reason for Newcastle United fans to panic. I can understand they might be getting frustrated because Chelsea, who have finished, I think, 3 points better than the last 2 seasons, are getting stronger. Manchester United are getting stronger. Newcastle have to wait for the PSL issue to sort of pass, and then they will sort of start signing players. I think Xavi Simons was one maybe to look out for. Maybe. I do think Newcastle United probably will start signing across Europe. Like Diamande, he looks like Palace have open talks according to Fabrizio, and he's open to a move abroad. I don't think Diamande will end up going to Crystal Palace. I know they have Europa League. I do think Newcastle might try and get that. I think what will probably happen is Newcastle will sign either Gahey or Diamande, one of those two. Or, yeah, so it's very interesting. I do think if I'm looking at Newcastle United right now, they need a right winger, they need a striker, a backup striker. I'm assuming Isak's going to stay. I think Willock and Longstaff potentially will both go, so I think they're going to need two more midfielders. One of them needs to be a Joe Linton type midfielder, a physical one who will do the dirty work, physically strong. We don't Newcastle United probably don't want the drop off that we saw towards the end of the last season, where for example the Chelsea game they missed his physicality when he was out injured, and they need a creative midfielder as well. They potentially could use with another fullback. I mean Trippier, if they want to cash in on him, for example, he's getting older. They've only got three fullbacks at the club of top quality in Hall, Livramento and Trippier, and they're going to be playing a lot of football. But then I do think Eddie Howe might be looking at playing the three at the back next season. The goalkeeping one is something that Eddie Howe wants. Me personally, if I was to give my opinion, I don't think a goalkeeper is a priority for Newcastle United. I think Nick Pope is a top quality keeper. And I think as long as you've got someone keeping the ball at the back of the net, we saw it with Chelsea, we saw it with Manchester United. Doesn't matter how good you are with your feet, at the end of the day, you need a keeper who's going to make the big saves. Nick Pope does that. But as for Newcastle United fans, I don't think they should be panicking. But they are. It looks like they could potentially be missing out on another target. Mark Gahey, João Pedro looks like he could be going to Chelsea. So it's almost like Newcastle United do need to step it up. Mark Douglas of the Eye did say expect signings to kick off next week. I think as soon as it hits July the 1st, I think Newcastle will go bang, bang, bang. But let me know your thoughts down below. Thank you for watching.